To learn to make gluten-free food, you need to learn a little bit more about the gluten-free flours available. In this video, I'm going to talk about corn flour, cornmeal, and masa harina. I've been teaching gluten-free cooking classes for 10 years, and I know you can learn to make fabulous gluten-free foods that you love. So corn flour is dried corn that's been finely ground to a powder, so it looks like a flour. You would expect a flour to be. It's usually quite yellowy. You can buy white corn flour, which comes from white corn, but typically it's more yellow. Corn flour can be used in both sweet and savory recipes, pancakes, biscuits, muffins, cornbread, and even in cakes. So lots of different ways to use this, and also as a breading. In the UK, recipes call for corn flour, but they use the word corn flour and they mean cornmeal. So just be aware when you're looking at recipes where they're coming from and what the recipe's calling for. So cornmeal is just more coarsely ground dried corn. And so typically you can tell right from looking at it, it's just a bit more granular. And there are quite a bit of variation between different brands. And sometimes, of course, I'm always looking for something gluten-free, and from one brand to the next, it's quite a difference, but usually your baking will turn out just fine. Now, two dishes that are made with cornmeal would be polenta and grits. So sometimes you'll see a bag labeled polenta, but polenta is really the dish that you make with cornmeal. And they do have different textures. Like corn grits would typically be more coarse, polenta would be more fine, but there's so much variation in all the different products available, it's difficult to tell. So for my everyday cooking, any kind of gluten-free cornmeal I can find is just fine for me. I make my cornbread recipe. It has corn flour and cornmeal in it, but you can make cornbread using cornmeal and a different gluten-free flour. So I make pancakes, biscuits, waffles, the cornbread that I mentioned into cornbread stuffing, and I don't know if I've made it into sweet recipes. And it also is a nice crunchy calamari I make with cornmeal in the breading. And then lastly, masa harina. So masa harina is finely ground corn that has then been treated with lime and ground again. So it's very powdery. This one looks a little more white. Masika is a brand of masa harina, but you'll sometimes see recipes calling for masika. And so that's what it means, is masa harina. And it's usually this brand is gluten-free right on the bag. And it's used to make tamales, soft corn tortillas, and arepas. It has a little bit of unusual taste, and we love it in our kitchen. So that's it. Corn flour, cornmeal, and masa harina for gluten-free baking. I'm Cindy, the Everyday Gluten Free Gourmet, sharing tips and recipes from my kitchen for more everyday cooking in yours.